when we were having Domino's pizza at the end of the night. But the thing is, I took up a 4-point hit. I took Salah out. I put Mane in, thinking that Mane do the business and carry on a rich vein of form, and use the saving to put Callum Wilson in. Unfortunately, that didn't work out. My team would have performed better if I just left it as is. Should have captained Vardy. I've been kind of championing for the past couple of weeks, and just didn't even take my own advice, and was listening to Ricky Pellegrini ramble on about Tammy Abraham.
That's all Mount Abraham.
Exactly.
Abraham. MVD. Can I ask
what happened at Chelsea there?
Can I ask you about Rico? Because I know Jimmy Ferguson's got Rico as well, but tell me a bit about Rico.
Don't speak about him. He's my secret weapon.
Tell me about
I thought I was
Rico.
going under the radar.
8 points.
8 points.
And he's recorded a couple of blanks for the season, but 8 points. That's fantastic, right?
Got 2 bonus.
Establishing himself in the Bournemouth team. And
4.2 million.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I got him in a couple of game weeks back as
he was
just
3.9, wasn't he?
Cheap option, purely because I was devoid. If I'm perfectly honest, listeners, it was a lucky punt.
I think you copied me, didn't you?
I always copy you, Jimmy. And yeah, it's paid off.
Like you say, you were right about Vardy. Vardy obviously getting a bit of stick in the media at the moment.
Do you want to hear the story? This is what I've heard on it.
Go on.
So Colleen Rooney is thinking that someone's taking all the stuff off her Instagram and selling it to the papers. Okay.
Yeah, that was Captain Russ. They got the wrong man.
I don't know the exact story, but some other embarrassing story comes out about her in the papers, and she comes out and she says, "Oh, that was Rebecca Vardy that spread that rumour." And everyone said, "How do you know that was Rebecca Vardy?" She said, "Oh, because that's not even true. I just posted it on my Instagram to get a reaction. And I actually deleted every single person from my Insta. Except Rebecca Vardy.
Which is
she's the only person on it, and it made it to the papers, so it must be her."
God, people got too much time, haven't they?
But Vardy's been obviously getting a lot of stick.
Yeah.
And he goes and scores a goal, puts his ears up to the away supporters, obviously get a bit of sit back.
It was a good header as well by Vardy.
Great,
very nice header.
And NVD has been raving about Vardy for the last few weeks, and I'm starting to listen now. I'm going to be less stubborn, and
I do think
I would like to
Vardy's
see.
worth a punt.
Because if you think about compared to like
quite
Aguero,
pricey though, mate.
Aubameyang, he's just up there in terms of
week in, week out players.
Week out.
Gets selected, doesn't he?
Always going to score goals, and Leicester looking like the top 4 team right now.
They're relying on him. The only thing I would say about Jamie Vardy is where you might be tempted not to captain him is that I found this season that he's not performed against some of the big teams. So if you think about
we talked about this 2 weeks ago.
They
were going into Liverpool, right?
Classic score.
He's always been Liverpool's bogeyman, but he didn't turn up, and I think that's continued the theme for the season against the let's call it the big 6 or top 6 opposition. But against teams outside of that, he's pretty much kind of been banging on a goal, maybe have got an assist. I think definitely if you can afford him, and surprisingly only 12.7% of managers have picked him today, he's worth having in your team. He's got Southampton, Crystal Palace, albeit their away fixtures, and then Arsenal at home. To be honest, they're all games where
they've got a good
list of fixtures. He could get a goal.
Do you want me to give you another tip on that?
Please.
Yes.
Have you seen Leicester at the King Power? It makes all the difference, right?
So they've only lost once, I think.
They won.
Since
they beat Burnley 2-1 there. Then 2 weeks before that, they beat Newcastle 5-0. Then before that, they were 2-1 against Spurs with the King Power, and then 3-1 against Bournemouth, and then 0-0 against Wolves. So at home, he scores
looks solid.
The majority of it.
Just as a comparison for a striker, Jimenez for Wolves. He's 7.1 million. Started slow this season, but he also started slow last season. He only got very minimal amount of points the first 10 game weeks last season. You all know that he became the favourite FPL striker last year, top with Aguero. Is it time to start thinking about Jimenez getting your team for Wolves?
Certainly starting to play very well, isn't he? I think a couple of assists for Traore the week before. He did score a goal disallowed by the VAR. I think the penalty he got as well takes the pens.
Yep.
Nice to see a striker that actually takes the pens these days, rather than
number 9
a Dan Milner or a Milivojevic
Milner.
or a Pogba or
Mark
get your
Noble.
Striker, put the ball down, bang it in the net. You're a striker for damn sake. But I do agree with you. I think Jimenez is worth looking at. Definitely worth looking
million.
at.
And I mean, he's cheaper than Haller. He's cheaper than Haller. He's cheaper than Callum Wilson. He's cheaper than Vardy, we were just talking about. He's cheaper than a lot of the top strikers.
He's definitely someone that we should talk about. I just wanted to round out this first section. I do like the new format, gents. I'd like to hear about how you've all done. Listeners, please write in. Tell us what you think.
Jimmy Ferguson, tell us about your team.
Well, we're still getting through the inbox, I was going to say, mate. I've been inundated with emails last week, but my team. I'm very pleased, actually, mate, with how I performed. The power of my bench is what took me over the line. I got 44 points, so I did better than Ricky Pellegrini, Captain Russ, and Neil Van Dijk. I was a little bit below you, Sean the John McGinn fanboy, which annoys me because I had you in the head-to-head league as well.
Go on,
so you done me there. I didn't have a great one though, lads. My week was really a tale of players that didn't play. So I had Aguero, he didn't play. I had Mahrez, he didn't play. I also had Adrian, he didn't play because that Alisson was back, the old French lad. But luckily the power of my bench took me through. On my bench this week I had Rico, Gunn, Lundstrom, and those guys together actually brought in 16 points to me. So they pushed me up there. Yeah. I made one sub from last week, one transfer. Everyone was getting on the Callum Wilson bandwagon and I was trying to get De Bruyne back in my team. And Mahrez somehow went down in price, and I think it's because I lost some money, and De Bruyne went up in price even though he weren't playing.
He's up to 10.1 now, De Bruyne.
So I could no longer afford
he only got 3
De
points.
Bruyne. Yeah, but I mean he should have, I say should have. I mean, if Jesus could pass the ball, he would have had a tap in.
It'd be great.
And De Bruyne also had a header come off the post. He was looking really good, really good.
De Bruyne looks like he's continuing where he left off pre-injury.
He did. So what I had to do though, gents, is I had to get rid of Pookie. So Pookie's now gone. I sold Pookie. I couldn't afford Callum Wilson, but I thought, hey, Josh King, no one's going to have gone for him. He could be a dark horse. I brought the lad in, and Eddie Howe put him on the bench. No wonder they didn't score. So then he got 1 point for me. So I got a little bit done there. But really, it was the power of the defence for me. Rico 8 points, Robertson 8 points, Tamori 5 points, Lundstrom 6 points. That was really, really strong there. Rest of my team got me a collective 15 points. So thanks to the defence, I got over the line, mate.
Jumped on the Abraham bandwagon for captain as well, unfortunately.
like a lot of us did. Apart from John McGinn fanboy over there.
I felt like the Abraham had to be done. I mean, I thought Newcastle were going to get beaten quite heavily. I just saw it and I thought so too. I'm so surprised about it. But I do also think it was my own fault in a way because I did make a rash decision putting King in. It was one of those where I just make the subs. I do it too quickly, mate. I don't really pay any attention. And as soon as I made it, I remembered that Southampton were playing Wolves and I did think, why didn't I go for Jimenez? That would have been a natural. I don't know. All in all, I'm not too worried about it. I think I'm in a good position, boys, and I've caught up on you a little bit. I've actually seen the updated league. I'm back in 4th spot in it. I've gone up from 7th to 4th, I think, boys. I'll be back above Sausage Burner on your arse again. Sean the John McGinn fanboy. But anyhow, it's enough from me. I think it's been a great first half, gents. Hey. We will be back. We need to go wet the whistle. It's a lot of talking. Try them out. Alright, boys. Cool, guys. We'll see you in the second half. We've got a question coming in, and then we will...
Rambling from the dugout.
Rambling from the dugout. That will be kicking us off in the second half, and then we'll get into the games next week, and then we'll have
enjoy your half-time flag.
Welcome back to Left Back in the Changing Room.
Hey!
Game Week 10 Part 2. Thank you for tuning in. We're going to go straight into it with a... Hang on, that. What's that coming over the hill? Was it a monster?
It's the captain.
It's the captain.
It's Captain Ross.
Captain Ross.
Evening.
How are you, Captain?
I'm alright, thank you. How are you?
You parked the boat up, son.
Not too bad. Did you lock it? Did you put the anchor down?
Rosso is the captain of our ship. Of our ship.
Of our ship.
Rosso is the
captain of our ship. Of our ship. And
This ship is a tanker.
You can tell we ain't in training anymore. We've had a beer. Right, listeners, we are going to go straight to our rambling from the dugout.
You're right, lads. It's Desmond from Liverpool. Do you think it's better to plan just 3 weeks out, or do you look further ahead of that on the FPL schedule?
Right, that was Desmond from Liverpool. Let me try and depict what he just said there, gents. I think what Desmond was asking us is, when you're making transfers, do you look at the very next game week and just do it, or do you plan it out? Do you look at the next 2, 3, 4 weeks and say... He's got tasty fixtures coming up.
It's an interesting one. I think the fixtures there's 2 things. Right?
Fixtures
and the type of position as well. I think they play a key role. More so from a strikers and your attackers that are getting your assists and goals, you try and look at favourable fixtures. So, for example, been championing someone like Jamie Vardy, always looked at his fixtures, seeing if he's playing some of the big boys or some of the kind of the lesser opposition. That's a given in terms of either who you're going to captain, but then also who you can either complement to get in terms of a transfer, or how long you're going to keep him in your team for. So I think that's one thing as well.
So Vardy, for an example, right? He's got Southampton next week. On Friday, by the way, listeners, we've got another Friday. Don't let it
by the way,
catch you out.
Friday alert.
By the way, Leicester have brilliant fixtures. Southampton, Crystal Palace, then Arsenal. That's at home, so we're just saying how good they are at the King Power, but it's tricky, obviously, against Arsenal. But Sheffield United did it tonight. Sorry, Ross. Sheffield Wednesday. Then they've got Brighton, Everton, Watford, Villa and Norwich. So taking them all the way through to just before Christmas, they've got pretty tasty lot.
They do, don't they?
Yeah.
They do look like they've got some easy-ish, what you'd say, a winnable games where there should be goals for Leicester. I think that they've had a lot of hard games already. So I'd be looking at that kind of trajectory when you look at it like that.
Yeah, so actually last week I mentioned I had put Schmeichel in my goals during the game, and that was one of the big things that I looked at when I saw him. I watched him and I said, he's actually pretty cheap, and I said he's a good goalkeeper. He's proven it. Maybe not this season, they've had some hard games, so the form's maybe a bit harsh on him, but looking ahead to those games, it's a good run-in.
Sorry, go on, MVD.
No, the only other thing I was going to say was for some of your previous season's top 4 teams as well, you have to look at, let's say, Champions League fixtures. You look at the squad, for example, of Manchester City, and we've already seen it this season in terms of how much they do rotation. Spoken about it on previous podcasts as well. Sometimes, you have to look at a Champions League fixture for all those teams, and then think about, okay, well, who's their next game against? Is it against an opposition that actually they need a full strength squad, or rather a first 11, or for example they might rest a few players. So I think there are another few things that you need to take into account for as well.
I'd like to flip it on its head just to play devil's advocate. Looking at the past few game weeks, we've been having so many unpredictable results. I think it's more going on the form of the team. I think if you're looking at teams like Man City, Chelsea, Liverpool...
You say Liverpool, they haven't lost, but they're not playing well.
They're not playing well, we're still winning games apart from the Man United game, right? They only got a draw. I fully expect them to bounce back and carry on, especially with Salah coming back into the team. I don't really necessarily think it's all about the fixtures, because when you look at the FPL app and it's showing these teams in green, teams like Sheffield United / Wednesday, Everton lost 4 games on a bounce, but then they go and beat West Ham. Look at Bournemouth, Norwich, we fought Bournemouth at home. All these unpredictable results, that's what the Premier League's all about, and it's very hard to really be consistent in terms of predictions in the Premier League. So I would flip that on its head.
Can I just say something?
Yeah, go on, Captain, go ahead.
I'm going to say, in comparison to last season seemed to be a lot more easier, as in, you just relied on getting points from your defenders. They were the key parts, and obviously, Liverpool were... having Liverpool defence was awesome, but now it's just everything's thrown into the mix. I mean, today, Sheffield United beating Arsenal, and it's not as easy to predict this season as it was last season. I think it's a lot more challenging.
There's not many clean sheets either, is there? There's not many clean sheets.
No, that's been up and down, and we said that earlier. It was Norwich 0, Bournemouth 0, and none of us saw that. We all saw Norwich getting absolutely destroyed. So I think that's interesting. Sean, the John McGinn fanboy, any reaction to Desmond's question on your side?
For me, it's a medium-term outlook. 2 to 3 weeks. I like to write up the form players. I think form's important. I think if you were to look at players who are high form and see how they go on to progress in the next 2 to 3 weeks, I think there'd be a high conversion ratio. And I think generally form plays a big part. We all know form doesn't last a long time though, so I think looking 2 to 3 weeks out of where you are at the moment is a good sort of barometer for getting a player in your team. If they'd be sort of mediocre after coming in your team, keep them a bit longer. They're still getting you points. If they're doing absolutely nothing or they find themselves on the bench, then get them out. But
be patient.
The next 2 to 3 weeks, anything further than that's a bit too far in advance. A lot can happen.
And Captain, how far out are you planning? Are you looking at just next week's game and making a transfer based on that, or do you look at the next 3 weeks and see who else they're playing?
I just check out the teams that they've got coming up in the next 3 weeks. I think if it's any more than 3 weeks, there's no point. But definitely. Within the space of 3 weeks, I think it's worth checking out who they're playing. But as I said, it's unpredictable. I mean, Sean was mentioning about the fact that getting a player that's playing well at the moment, but at the same time, I went and bought McGinn, kind of fell flat on my face.
You missed the boat, mate.
Should have got
points.
Grealish.
It was too late.
We did tell you.
Yeah, like so. All the
Missed your own vote. So
It's rubbish.
So Dennis.
He wants to kill us now.
So Dennis.
Desmond, mate. Desmond.
Desmond.
Dennis is his brother.
Thank
Neil
you very
Van
much,
Dijk.
lads. Thanks for the question, Harry. Appreciate it. Love the